Mr. Whitetail's ghost hunting south of the border.
These deer are called very often the ghost of the desert. Very elusive to hunt. You see the shine of an eye, maybe the glint off an antler. We got one more chance. We'll go up there and set up and see what happens.
Winchester's World of Whitetail is brought to you by Winchester Ammunition, the American legend. Thompson Center, America's master gunmaker. Nikon, the trusted name in optics. She Outdoor Apparel, her adventure starts here. Cabela's, the world's foremost outfitter. Dallas Safari Club, promoting conservation, education, and ethical hunting worldwide. Ghost Blind, not seeing is believing. And by Ram Outdoorsman. There are a lot of places to go in this big wide world, and the new Ram Outdoorsman can get you to every one of them.
First day that we got into Sonora, Mexico, spent the day walking, glassing, sitting on points, looking. Saw a lot of tracks. There's not a smidgen of dust that's been moved, so you know the deer's been through there fairly recently. We're chasing something that's pretty good right there. Chased them around in here a little bit. In Mexico, particularly out in Sonora, you have desert mule deer down the low country, you have Coues deer up on the high country, and just above those you have desert bighorn. I've set my goal to try to kill an absolute monster Coues deer. Very elusive to hunt. These deer are called very often the ghost of the desert. They're small. They're a lot smaller than most whitetail throughout North America. They're very elusive, very secretive.
The diminutive Coues deer is a desert dweller in Arizona, New Mexico, and northwest Mexico, where Mr. Whitetail's hunting in Sonora on the rancho of outfitter Chacho Zepeda.
We just want to walk here to this hill, and then we can glass both sides, and you know, that's some water over here in this canyon.
In the canyon?
Yeah. And,
coming down here, I had heard Chacho was a very special individual.
It's pulling a lot of deer from the whole mountains.
Once I started visiting with this gentleman, I learned a lot. And you see a lot of times these deer water during the middle part of the day, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, here's a gentleman who knows about whitetail deer that are here, about the desert mule deer, about the desert bighorns, about the habitat that's here. I will load up something in case we see something very quickly. This particular ranch that we're hunting is under a really good management program. There's some absolute monster whitetail deer, some monster Coues deer that score in the 125, 130, you know, maybe even a low 140. But finding them is something totally different. So even though there are not many deer here, I think when we finally see one, it's going to be worth shooting.
Sometimes called the fantail, the Coues deer is a unique subspecies of whitetail, and one worth the closer look that Larry gives it on this edition of the World of Management. Brought to you by Ghost Blind. Not seeing is believing.
The Coues whitetail is arguably the smallest of the whitetail deer subspecies. They're about the size of a regular northern whitetail fawn. 110 pounds is a big Coues whitetail. You can tell by the skull. Most big northern deer, you can put your fingers in between the birds of the antlers. Here, you can almost put 3 of them in, so it gives you some size perspective. They live in very harsh habitat. They live in a habitat that's very arid, very dry. Nutritious plants, yes. Water, very low. A lot of predators, coyotes, bobcats, worlds of mountain lion. These animals are true survivors when you get right down to it. But in terms of management, one of the best things that you can do is to try to control the predators, regulate the hunting seasons, regulate the amount of animals taken, provide water for them. They can survive without it, but it sure can do a whole lot better if there's water available for them. That's what produces good Coues whitetail deer.
For more information, log on to versus.com.
Hunting these deer is truly tough. They're not called the ghosts of the desert for nothing. They blend in so extremely well that even their white is almost gray sometimes. You look at that country out there and it blends in perfectly with what they look like. Slow doe, kind of that thicker stuff. I begin to wonder if I couldn't see a blasted deer what the deal was.
While the desert ghost continues to haunt Mr. Whitetail, he takes us back to the most important hunt he makes every year, the one with his 4 grandsons on Winchester's World of Whitetail. Winchester's World of Whitetail is brought to you by Buck Bomb, blows away traditional scents, Ghost Blind, Not Seeing is Believing, Silver Zyme, the ultimate hybrid technology scent elimination spray, backed by science, doubted by no one, and by Otis, from the front lines to the hunt of a lifetime. On the highway or off the beaten path, the 2011 Dodge Ram Outdoorsman has serious carrying capacity. And no matter what the road's like, with its multi-link rear coil suspension, the Ram Outdoorsman won't lack for ride, comfort, and cornering. There's a lot of places to go in this big wide world, and the new Ram Outdoorsman can get you to every one of them. In Sonora, Mexico, Larry Weishuhn's finding that the Coues deer deserves its ghostly reputation. But before that, he shares the hunting tradition with his 4 grandsons on this Winchester's World of Whitetail.
I hunted as a child, hunted with my granddad, hunted with my dad. When my daughters were young, they hunted with me. So it was natural when the grandkids came along that they should start hunting with me as well. So it's become an annual event. I try to take all 4 of them on a hunt somewhere where they can take a doe or maybe a management buck. I'm one of those who believes that you don't put a child on a monster trophy buck when they first get hunting. You got to let them earn it. You got to let them spend some time hunting to learn the basics, and then maybe for the time being, every animal that they take is a trophy for them.
They wait for that time of year when they can go out and hunt with their papo. It's such a tradition within our family. And I have a little girl too who's just about that age where she can start hunting, and she begs and begs and begs to go too and thinks it's so unfair.
Are you on tight, guys? When I set up this year's grandson's hunt, I really kind of set them up in 2 different areas. With setting up the hunt for Joshua and Justin, I wanted to hunt fairly close to where I grew up hunting in Colorado County, Texas. Got down there and it had been raining and there was water everywhere. There were areas that I wanted to go hunt that I couldn't get into simply because it was too wet. It is.
I like hunting whitetail deer because it's a challenge and they're kind of unpredictable.
In the past, Joshua's taken several deer. I mean, he's a great shot. We had some bucks come in, they were all too big for their age. Fine little doe came in that had a kind of a crooked ear on one side.
Yes, sir.
Good shot. Looked like a coyote or something got a hold of that. Look at that, guys. She's not in real good shape, okay? I think she's probably just a really old doe that we need to take out. Shot. Great shot. Okay.
I've hunted with my grandpa for 6 years, and I've harvested 8 white-tailed deer in that time.
With those 2 boys, they're just absolutely curious about everything. It's an opportunity to express to them little things that I've learned over the years. Got a little bit of an overhanging limb. What he does is they reach up there in that lacrimal gland, that little gland that's right in front of their eye, a preorbital gland. They'll reach up there and rub that and their forehead on it. I finally came up to the last day. We set up right close to camp. We can't shoot any of those yet.
Are they too young?
Too young, yes. Too young, they're too big.
That's too big. Hate that rule.
I'm sorry, Justin. That's the hardest part of what I have to do sometimes, is to talk them out of taking a particular buck, because we are there to hunt for one class of buck. And I want them to know that the reason we have the quality animals that they get to see, that someday they'll get a chance to hunt, are there because of what we have done in terms of the management program.
Is that a yearling, Paso?
Look at it a little bit closer. Finally, this little buck comes in, and I mean, there's no doubt he's a 3-year-old deer, and he probably scores maybe a little over 100. That reddish colored one, that's one I want you to shoot when you get a chance. Go ahead and get your gun up. And then whenever he gets clear.
Can I shoot him now?
Yes. He's gonna fall, he's gonna fall. Shoot him again if you can. Good shot. Good shooting. That was a great job.
Thank you, Papa.
I'll tell you what, both of you guys did good. You got that doe. Tomorrow morning we'll hunt for a buck, okay?
Well, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, buddy. Welcome to the ranch.
I appreciate that.
Oh, you
Thank
betcha. We got some good weather, saw some good deer this morning.
This weather is absolutely.
Jake is the oldest grandson and Andrew is the youngest. I wanted to take them down to South Texas. I mean, we live in South Texas, and this is where I really, truly enjoy hunting. I'll give them the opportunity to spend time in the outdoors, to get to know them a little bit better, maybe them get to know me a little bit better. They may come in from any direction.
I always look forward to going on hunts with my grandfather. He's been taking me on hunts since I was 8 years old, and I'm 14 now, and it's still fun for me.
Set a blind that lay right in here somewhere. Our whole goal was to try to take an older management buck. A buck that was leased at 5.5 years old, that scored maybe up to 135. Got the post blind set up. We got deer out in front of us. We got deer over the side. Finally, this one buck comes in, and there's no doubt this is an old deer. Don't shoot the little one. You can take him. Go ahead and take him when you're ready. Reload. Reload. Stay on him.
He's down.
He's down. Stay on him, though.
I know I'm on him.
Good shot, Jake.
It was a great feeling, not only that I dropped my deer on my first shot, but also that I got to do it with my grandfather.
You're doing pretty good. Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Now let's go see if we can find Andrew one, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been hunting with my grandfather for 4 years, and I look forward to hunting with them every year.
I think we're ready to go, Mr. Randy.
Good deal.
Interestingly, Randy had told us about an old stag buck that he'd seen, an old velvet horn. When he told us about this deer, I thought, well, we will never, ever see this buck. We're sitting there, and I mean, there's several bucks. They come out in the field. All of a sudden, I happen to look back down at some deer where the deer were, and at the far end of the deer, here's this deer, and he turns his head. When he turns his head, I can see he's got stops up there about yay long. They're gray and velvet. Okay, the one that's just coming up.
Can I shoot him?
Wait.
Going right there.
Right there's that dead there.
The one that looked up.
Put the sight down.
Okay, I'm on. Whoa, ow.
I think you hit him real hard. I think you hit him right through the lungs. I saw him kind of twist. Let's go look.
Oh, it's fuzzy.
Look at that, Andrew. Can you believe that? That's a stag. That's what happens when a whitetail never sheds his antlers. Their testicles don't come down, and so they end up just growing their antlers on and on and on, and you can see he's already broken some off there, and he started growing back again. Yeah, Andrew, congratulations. That is a deer, my friend. I think one of the most important things we as hunters can do is to introduce others into the great sport of hunting. It really doesn't matter whether they're your kids or your nieces or your nephews or grandkids or whatever. Take some kids hunting. What a great way to introduce them to the outdoors, to perpetuate this absolutely fabulous legacy that we have, this tradition of hunting.
Cool, man. I can't believe I shot a stag.
Larry Wisehuhn's hunting for Coues deer in Sonora, Mexico. But days of hiking and glassing have shown him only a doe and a too small buck, and proved how elusive this desert deer can be. Winchester's World of Whitetail is brought to you by Winchester Ammunition, the American legend. Thompson Center, America's master gunmaker. Nikon, the trusted name in optics. She Outdoor Apparel. Her adventure starts here. Cabela's, the world's foremost outfitter. Dallas Safari Club, promoting conservation, education, and ethical hunting worldwide. Buck Bomb blows away traditional scents. And by Ram Outdoorsman. There are a lot of places to go in this big wide world, and the new Ram Outdoorsman can get you to every one of them. From the pleasures of hunting with his grandsons, Larry returns to Mexico and the challenge of Coues deer on Winchester's World of Whitetail.
It's a lot of glassing. It's hard hunting. It's walking up and down volcanic type mountains. Every bush that's out there has got a myriad of thorns. There's all kinds of things that are constantly grabbing at you when you're walking through the hillside and you're walking on, if you will, rotten rock. If you're going to come hunt Coues whitetail, I think you got to be in good shape to walk up and down the mountains. You got to be physically and mentally prepared. I think the mental preparation is every bit as important as the physical preparation, of knowing that you're going to sit there for hours and literally just take this mountain apart piece by piece by piece with your binoculars and with a spotting scope. That we also had in camp, the guy that really kind of set the hunt up for me, Ariel Trevino. He's a wildlife biologist. Everywhere we went, we talked about wildlife management, we talked about hunting, we talked about what could be done for the species.
We represent the Wildlife Managers Association, that's AMABC, and we work with different ranchers all across Mexico. We do the surveys for them, and we try to establish how many bucks are we going to take out without hurting the herd. We also give them tips on how to manage better their herds.
You know, you hope to see a lot of deer. You hope to see the one that you're looking for, but I'm also one of those that never gives up. Well, at least there was one here for a while. It was from about 3 or 4 years ago. That deer is probably a youngster looking at the pedicle and the main beam. He could be a real monster this year. Now we just find him. I'm also one of those that realizes that on some hunts, you may hunt really hard, and when the hunt's over with, all you got to show for it is calluses on your backside, calluses on your feet where you've been walking up and down the hills. There are Coues deer here, and they're big, but it's a very low deer density. It's one of the reasons we're having such a hard time. And if I don't do any good on this trip, I'll come back in January, maybe catch the rut, hopefully. But this trip isn't over yet. Essentially our last afternoon of hunting. Hard hunt, passed up a nice young 8-point buck. Probably one that would have gotten shot elsewhere, but I just don't like to shoot young stuff, and this one looked to me like he might be 2-3 years of age. Passed him up at this water hole. I'm gonna sit up this afternoon, get over the top of it. Hopefully this sunshine and warmer weather and we'll drive those deer into the drink. So we got one more chance. We'll go up there and set up and see what happens. Pedro de Tiu has made his appearance. Hope that's not an indication of what we're going to see tonight. Getting skunked. The animals that are here, they're survivors. They have survived all kinds of weather conditions. The habitat is thorny, to put it at the least. Tip of the week, when you're in the desert, don't sit on thorns. There's no doubt the Coues deer is the most challenging of the white-tailed deer subspecies in North America. Almost as good as a desert bighorn. They have a tendency to bed up in a little bit higher area, about halfway up the mountain. So the danger comes, they can go down the mountain, they can go up the mountain, they got lateral movement, and they will sit there, if you will, or lay there and not move a muscle for hours on end. And you can glass, and you glass, and finally the sun changes positions, and sometimes then you see a flicker of an ear, you see the shine of an eye, maybe the glint off an antler, or maybe not. Looked like the little gray ghost of the desert has kicked my butt. 5 days of hunting, from daylight to dark, never quitting. Saw one little doe way off in the distance, passed up a young buck here at the water hole. Fair amount of tracks, just can't seem to find any deer. I've glassed, We've had the guys out glassing in different areas. It's just been a really tough hunt. I love this kind of hunting. It's my favorite style of hunting there is. No doubt there's a big buck here, but I just can't find him. Of course, yes, I came here to hunt a Coues deer. I came here to take a Coues deer. But when the hunt was all said and done, I love this style of hunting. I love the spot and stalk. I dearly love hunting this little animal. It's off to me. And whether I took one or not, I learned so much about the habitat, so much about the animal, and I can't wait to come back.
All whitetail, all the time.
Take them out. Take them.
On Versus.com and Versus On Demand.